What up, Wizards? It's Dev from The Place, and we have got a big old day of Foundations previews ahead of us, man. We got to get on it. There's 27 cards from the main set that we've gotten to see from different preview outlets and content creators and writers and stuff like that, but there's also a whole bunch of cards from the starter collection kit that we have to go over too, but I'm going to do that, just so you know, in a separate video that I'll also have released today. But it's like a couple of hundred cards, man. So I can't cover that all in one video and also cover all the cards from today. So again, huge news. Lots of cards came out today. They're going to be legal and standard for like the next 5 years, way more than we originally anticipated. It's pretty exciting, especially given some of the stuff that's in that starter collection kit. But again, today we got to go over all the main set previews, and there's a few really good ones, like some of these reprints. I guess we'll start with those as usual. Imprisoned in the Moon came back. Nice little piece of removal. Kind of expensive by today's standards, but still a halfway decent card, man. I think it's fine. We also got reassembling Skeleton for all these Aristocrats decks and Sacrifice decks and stuff. I'm not sure that it's as good as it should be. I don't think it's as good as it normally is in Commander, where you can establish long loops that require a lot of mana and stuff. I don't think we're going to be doing that as much in Standard, but it's a decent pickup to try out for Aristocrats decks, and, there's Skeletons deck in Standard too. This might be halfway decent in too. That's a lot of twos. We also got Micromancer back, which goes and tutors up little baby instants and sorceries, but depending on the format, there might be some pretty good targets for it, and the card's got 5 years, so probably do something with it eventually. But apart from that, we got Self-Reflection, which is apparently reprinted from the Lost Caverns of Ixalan, which only came out like a year ago, but I completely forgot this card existed. Flashback Clone Effect does seem cool, though. We also got Overrun, a card that I specifically asked for in my 10 cards I want reprinted in this set video. That whole thing is coming true. Besides Lightning Bolt at this point. I'm getting a lot of the cards I wanted in that video, so feel pretty good about Overrun. Would have rather had the Tempest art, but this is probably at this point the more iconic card for the card. We also got Tatiova Benthic Druid. It's just still in Standard. We had it in Standard. It's gonna stay in Standard. Fun little commander to use, whether you're playing actual Commander or baby Commander, i.e. Brawl. We also got an Offer You Can't Refuse. It's coming back to Standard for 5 freaking years. I guess it's good to have a reprint that's going to see a lot of print. I imagine the set's going to get open like crazy, like Cracker Jacks. People are going to open this thing like white cheddar Cheez-Its. People are opening this thing up. So I imagine an Offer You Can't Refuse is going to go from like a $4 uncommon to hopefully like a 30 cents uncommon, because it's going to be out there. We also got Aetherize, just like in Standard. This is a pretty strong Magic card, man. Like, it's no Settle the Wreckage, but it's still 4 mana during your opponent's combat step to just like wreck them. This is good tempo that's seen play in Standard before in decks that don't have access to better sweepers. And even in some decks that do, again, because the tempo is just so good and it's basically one-sided and you just win the game after you cast it. This is really good, man. Like, blue has been getting kind of really not great, I guess you could scientific term poopy sweepers for the last few years now. And they keep trying to print them into sets, and we just get like asinine antics and cards like it. They're just not good. It's not good Magic cards. So this is sort of a great baseline blue sweeper whose presence in Standard is slightly terrifying, honestly. We also randomly got Giada Font of Hope back. That wasn't too long, she just rotated out. Turns out she drove over to the store, came right back, here she is again for 5 years in Standard. Foundations has given us kind of a, angel sub-theme, and Giada is going to be a really important part of any angel theme, just 2 mana, which not a whole lot of angels cost. This fills out your curve in a way that you really like, but also ramps you into the expensive angels, which we've already established there are kind of a lot of. So just an amazing card to have for 5 years. Perma-legal, semi-perma-legal, and Standard. If you ever wanted to build angels, you always have this forever. And I like that. Next, though, is Swiftfoot Boots, the final reprint in this video. Again, the other video we do today is going to have a ton of reprints. Please watch that. It's very important that you watch that video. They have dropped a ridiculous amount of cards into Standard from the starter kit collection. I cannot overstress the importance of it. I really cannot. But anyway, yeah, Swiftfoot Boots. Swiftfoot Boots in the main set. Cool to have this in Standard for 5 years, man. Like, Swiftfoot Boots is obviously a really, really powerful equipment, and along with, some of the equipments that we already have in Standard, I think that there's like an argument for a Valiant deck, if nothing else. Valiant actually does trigger when you target them with the equipability of an equipment. So that's cool. Emberheart Challenger plus Swiftfoot Boots, but just like any important creature that you want to protect, you've got Swiftfoot Boots now. It's not just for Commander players. So I actually think this might show up from time to time, and even though you might get blown out when you go to equip the guy, like if you actually do get the boots hooked up to whatever, Sheldred or something like that, then like that's annoying. A couple of years ago, well, really about a year ago, Wizards said that they were going to start giving us, more, better, cheaper removal, and they definitely did. Turns out that it's really hard to stick a good threat nowadays with all the ridiculous removal we have access to, but Swiftfoot Boots is kind of a nice card to introduce into a format like that. It's not unfair or anything, but it's definitely a nice thing to have in the face of all this really cheap, really efficient removal. So, cool reprint. I never thought I'd play this outside of Commander again, but it's in Standard. Let's get to checking out that new stuff, man. There were some pretty good rares today, but as usual, I gotta throw up a couple of uncommons. I don't even know that we got a common today. I'm pretty sure everything was at least uncommon, but that doesn't necessarily keep a card from being not super impressive. So with that in mind, let's look at Seeker's Folly as well as Tragic Banshee here. Now Banshee I'll look at first. 5 mana, 4 and a black for a 5/3 spirit with Morbid. When this creature enters, target creature an opponent controls gets -1/-1 till end of turn. If a creature died this turn, that creature gets -13/-13 instead. You cast Tragic Slip instead, which is actually not horrible, but at 5 mana, it's priced out of anything but limited playability, but in limited, I think it's actually pretty good. I really do, man. You're going to kill whatever. This basically says, destroy target creature. And get around indestructible when it comes into play on most limited tables. So yeah, it's pretty good there, but not, again, it's not going to make it anywhere out of that format alive. So let's move on to Seeker's Folly. 3 mana, 2 and a black for a sorcery. Choose one of these. Target opponent discards 2 cards, Mind Rot, or creatures your opponents control get -1/-1 until end of turn. It's not that this card isn't impressive. I won't say that. I think this card could do some stuff, but it's just kind of yawn. It's a Mind Rot with upside, and in this case, the upside is actually kind of good, man. It's like destroy a bunch of small tokens or Deep Cavern Bats or X1s, basically. Destroy all their Gleeful Demolition tokens and whatnot. Destroy their Heartfire heroes at the beginning of the game. Altogether, it's not a terrible thing to do. I like a Mind Rot with upside a good bit of the time, but Mind Rot tends to kind of not be great against aggro because they empty their hand anyway, right? But in this case, they did empty their hand quickly. It probably means they got some X1s. And this is like a 2 or 3 for 1 if you cast it for the second mode. So, I don't know. As far as Mind Rots with upside go, it's actually pretty okay, but I still don't really expect to see it in Standard. There's also Arbiter of Woe and Needletooth Pack in the uncommon slot today. Arbiter is 6 mana, 4 and 2 black for a 5/4 demon. As an additional cost to cast it, sack a creature. He flies. 5/4 flyer for 6. When this creature enters, each opponent discards a card and loses 2 life. You draw a card and gain 2 life. So, cool little budget reanimation target, you don't have to sacrifice a creature to get it into play if you're going to reanimate it, right? You don't. So, you reanimate it on turn 4 with your Zombify. And you can do that in limited, can't you? Yeah, that's kind of nice. So, reanimate it on turn 4. And they go down a card, they lose 2, you go up a card and gain 2, you got a 5/4 flyer that actually seems pretty good, it feels like a Hostile Investigator, which is probably just a better card than this, all things considered, but, there may be times where you actually want to sacrifice a creature. It's a demon, so I guess it matters for that, deck that's been going around, the Unholy Annex deck. It's in every deck at the Pro Tour, at the World Championships. So that's kind of important, I guess, to point out. Just neat card here, but again, I don't think it quite touches Standard, but doesn't really keep me from liking it. I like it. It's got a good haircut, but Needletooth Pack, that's a dinosaur. It's kind of exciting. It's 5 mana, 3 and 2 green for a 4/5 dino with Morbid. At the beginning of your end step, if a creature died this turn, put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature you control. So, you throw it down after combat. Creature died, right? And technically put 6, 7 worth of stats into play for 5 mana. It could be better, could be worse. Just altogether a very, very limited playable card, but it is limited playable. It's got decent stats for the mana cost. It'll make another creature a little bit larger that you played earlier in the game, or you can just throw the counters on it. So again, serviceable, but nothing super special. Let's move along to Cephalid Ink Mage is apparently what this was called, along with Mischievous Mystic, which is a great name for a magic card. Ink Mage over here is 3 mana, 2 and a blue for a 2/2 Octopus Wizard. an octopus wizard. When it enters, surveil 3. It also has threshold. Now, as long as you have 7 or more cards in your yard, Ink Mage cannot be blocked. That's kind of neat, you know? It puts 3 cards in your yard some of the time when it enters the battlefield, so it gets you almost half of the way there if you really, really want to do that. This is probably just a 3-mana 2/3, but the ETB trigger is actually kind of tempting on this, man. Like, Surveil 3 is pretty good. It's like way better than Scry 3. You get fuel graveyard stuff, maybe put a Reanimator target in there, you know, and then like keep the good stuff on top of your library. You want a land drop or something, you get that. So Surveil 3 is actually kind of a nasty ETB trigger, but again, still probably not super standard playable, but like, let's not discount how good the potential on that ETB trigger might be. But that said, we got to move on to Mischievous Mystic here, who is, again, pretty tempting magic card, man. This is 2 mana, 1 and a blue for a 2/1 human wizard with flying. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, create a 1/1 blue fairy creature token with it a flying. So, like, you can do this on your opponent's turn as well, at least the way the translation is currently worded. We just saw a card yesterday as like Cat Collector, and that was whenever you gain life for the first time on each of your turns, you get a 1/1 cat guy. And this is whenever you draw your second card each turn, or at least, again, that's the working translation that I have in front of me right now. So that would be a little bit better wording wise and allow you to actually do it on your opponent's turns, which I kind of like, you know. But we've got this like draw 2 cards a turn theme going in this set too. You know, it seems like blue adds a card or 2 to this theme like every set or 2. And this set's kind of more going in on it, and I've always liked this theme. So this is kind of neat. I don't mind this at all, you know, getting a little guy every time you draw your second card is actually like fairly all right. And the thing flies, like, sure, we'll take that for just a 2-mana startup cost. This is also kind of a Bitter Blossom. There's a couple of cards in the set that I've had to call. We called Fishing Rod Baiter Blossom. And I want to call this Fater Blossom because it makes fairies, but so does Bitter Blossom. So I don't really know what to call it, but one way or the other, man. Pretty neat little dude here that probably isn't as good as, you know, things like Third Path Iconoclast, Monastery Mentor, and Gremlin Tamer, and not a whole lot of those really see that much play in Standard. So I don't know if I can like full-throatedly endorse this guy, but he is a cool little uncommon. These are the kind of magic cards I like. But next, let's check in on Clinquant Sky Mage. I think, is that how you say it? Clinquant Sky Mage? That's a name. But anyway, we also got to see Fiendish Panda, working translation on that card. But let's take a look at Sky Mage first. Let's just call him Sky Mage. That's easier. 4 mana, 3 and a blue, for a 1/1 bird wizard with flying. A 4 mana 1/1. What does he do? Whenever you draw a card, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. All right, let's go. That's all right, dude. Like, for 5 mana, you could just cast to 5 mana Teferi, you know, and like minus him and get the dog that has the same line of text on him. I think it's probably better, but like, por qué no estas, man? Just play him in the same deck. I really like this too, man. Again, these are the kind of magic cards I like. This whole set is the kind of magic cards I like. Beautiful in their simplicity. Why haven't we seen these kind of cards before? Because they're so like obvious and simple, right? So I just think it's cool. I think that it's probably not going to see any play almost anywhere except for like maybe limited. But that said, if you play it into some sort of brainstorm effect or something, like instantly a 4/4. If you just like play it and it survives till your next turn, it's instantly a 2/2 when you draw your card for the turn. Any like, you know, play Chart of Course and it's a 4/4, or play another like card draw effect and it's a 5/5 or 6/6 or whatever. So I think this is actually like a little bit more dangerous than it looks, while still, again, not quite reaching the orbit that it needs to get to, you know. It doesn't quite blast into the stratosphere or anything, but I do think it's a really, really cool magic card that's probably going to end up in a cube or 2 of mine before it's all said and done. Just nice design on this thing. Fiendish Panda, or the much better name, Pandemonio over here, is 4 mana, 2, a white and a black for a 3/2 demon bear. Whenever you gain life, it gets a +1/+1 counter, and when it dies, return another target non-bear creature card with mana value less than or equal to this creature's power from your graveyard to the battlefield. All right, man, this life gain deck is actually cooking at this point. I think it's got way too many 4-drops to actually play this, right? Like, it just saw that we just got the 4 mana 3/3 angel that draws you cards and has the Ajani's Pride Mate ability just like this thing. We've got Enduring Tenacity if we want to play it in that deck. So I think there's just better 4s, but still, man, he's cool. Like, he's Orzhov. You know how much I like Orzhov. He's a panda. Pandas are awesome. We don't get a lot of pandas in Magic, but he's still, he's got he's got the dang old Johnny's Primate ability and, like, you know, being able to return a Zoraline or an Amalia or an Essence Channeler or something like that from your graveyard to the battlefield when this guy dies. Like, dude, it might actually be more worth it than it looks to play this, you know? Like, maybe Enduring Tenacity is not that good. Maybe this is actually slightly better, you know? We'll have to try it out. It's pretty good, man. But a 4-drop that can be cut down the turn it enters play is probably not exactly where we want to be in Standard, but I still want to try it, man. Cards like this are exciting for me. But last couple of kind of sleepy uncommons here today. We got to see Slumbering Cerberus, who is literally sleeping, but also Divine Resilience, which is actually kind of a banger of a Magic card, but Cerberus over here is 2 mana. I want you to remember that. 2 mana, 1 and a red, for a 4/2 dog. This creature doesn't untap during your untap step. It also has Morbid. At the beginning of each end step, if a creature died this turn, untap this creature. So a 2 mana 4-power guy. Cool. He gets to attack at least once, too. He doesn't go to sleep until after you attack with him, so that's pretty nice, you know? Like, if something else died, either on your opponent's side of the table or your side of the table, if you just have Shock or Lightning Strike and you kill one of their guys, like, he gets to untap, I don't know, seems okay. So I think this guy is actually really, I don't want to say he's great, I don't, but again, like, despite the obvious, he's slumbering, right? So I'm not trying to make a pun, I promise. I do think this is kind of sleepery. 2 mana for a 4-power guy is just something you cannot pass up. You know, he's uncut downable for what that's worth. He is shockable and torch the tower and all that stuff, but uncut downable, that's worth it in a red 2-drop. I'm not sure where this guy goes because I just don't think he's great for the mono red or Gruul decks that are currently being played. But again, man, you just can't forget that a 2 mana 4-power guy is in Standard, especially if we get some like ferocious stuff or stuff that cares about 4-power creatures. You know, this is good with that stuff. So altogether, man, I think it's at least worthy of note. And so is Divine Resilience, man. This is a single white mana for an instant, but it also has Kicker, 2 and a white. Target creature you control gains Indestructible until end of turn. If this spell was kicked, any number of target creatures you control gain Indestructible until end of turn. Neat. Okay, so just one of these mass protection spells that is actually a baby protection spell, which we needed more of in white, you know, like we've got a couple of these Shield Mages or whatever it is. Yeah, Shield Mages Rescue or something. Shard Mages Rescue is the one that sees the most play, but there's also like Lauren's Escape, I think, is in Standard right now. So it's not like we don't have 1 white mana protection spells, but being able to protect all of the guys at the same time is actually kind of nuts. You know, you just turn this into something that wrecks your opponent during combat. Right? Because the 1 mana version of this is mostly going to be used to blank removal spells at instant speed, which is a great mode. But, you know, once you have your 3 mana, you can send all your guys into combat, bait your opponent into blocking, destroy all their guys. Your guys don't die. You can do it on defense too. You know, if they think they got a good attack step, no, they don't. So I actually think this card is wired, man. Like, I think this card is very, very good and probably, if not the best uncommon of the day, then it's in the top 2 or 3. Let's move on to the new rares and mythics from today, and I gotta say, man, today was a really interesting one in terms of, like, online discussion about these rares and mythics, because, like, there are some cards people are freaking out over, like 2 or 3, that people think are very strong that I'm not as impressed by as, like, everybody else online personally, but there's a couple that have gone under the radar. Nobody's really talking about them that I think are, like, certified sleepers for this set, given the, again, lack of talk that I've seen about them online so far, at least. So that in mind, let's get into these. There has to be a first rare of the day, though, and in this case, I think it's Destiny Steward or Steward of Destiny or something. This is 6 mana, 4 and 2 blue for a 5/5 flying Sphinx that cannot be countered. I do love that line of text, but when it enters, you look at the top 5 cards of your library and separate them into 1 face down pile and 1 face up pile. An opponent can choose one of those piles. Put that chosen pile into your hand, put that other pile into your graveyard. So this is kind of neat. It's like a fact or fiction-ish effect when it enters the battlefield, and it's always going to enter the battlefield. You know, like, it can't be countered. It's coming straight from the stack to the table, which I think is kind of neat. So you'll always get this value if you're going to spend this much mana on the card, which I think is nice. But, you know, once the card is in play, I think it's a pretty meaty threat that has to be answered, and it's going to get you some value. It's either going to get you like the best 1 or 2 cards from the top of your library, or it's going to get you like 3 to 4, you know, okay cards, but it's still like a ridiculous amount of value. So, you know, again, there has to be a first card of the day in the rares here, but this just goes to show that I think that the rares today were pretty good, even the ones that, again, not that many people are talking about. You know, I might not be putting as much respect on its name as I should be by making it the first rare we talk about. I think this is okay, but 6 mana seems a little bit steep to me, and I'm not really sure what kind of mid-range deck wants to play this card. But there could be one, and it could be sideboardable for that matter. Imagine this in like the sideboard of a blue-white control deck or some other kind of control deck or whatever as kind of a mirror breaker. You know, if you're up against another control deck, you're guaranteed to resolve this, and now you get like 3 or 4 cards. You know, like it's gonna be really tough for them to beat. So I kind of like it in that application, but I'm not really sure where else it goes. But resolved against nearly anything, I think it's pretty powerful. So not a bad Magic card. Next, a card that I'm pretty psyched about is High Society Hunter. They're gonna get sued. They're gonna get sued by Anne Rice, man. Like, I literally just watched Interview with the Vampire like 2 days ago, and pretty early into the movie, Lestat says, "I love to hunt in society." So this is, I'm just going to pretend this is Lestat, which does make me like the card slightly more. It is 5 mana, 3 and 2 black for a 5/3 Vampire Noble with flying. Whenever this creature attacks, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. And here's the good line of text. Whenever another non-token creature dies, draw a card. Awesome. This is pretty okay, man. I think, again, just like the last card, you know, 6 mana. It's really powerful when you get to the text box, but it's 6 mana. This card kind of has the same disease. You know, it's 5 mana, despite whatever the text box says. I do like that it's probably a Fallen Angel reference, a card that I'm really loved since I was like 11 years old, but you know, it's not quite Fallen Angel. It's not a like free repeatable sack outlet for this, you know, mana value and power toughness and keyword ability. I'm telling you, it's Fallen Angel, but not. Still, you know, this does get slightly larger every turn. It is a sacrifice outlet, but obviously the big part of this is drawing the cards. And sure, you know, like when you go into attack and sack a creature with it, you get to draw a card doing that. So self-sustaining, I guess. That's sweet. But ultimately, it's just this last line of text that makes this card really powerful, but again, not quite standard playable. Just a nice little commander piece, though. But next, let's check out Alesia, who is done smiling at death. She is now laughing at fate. This is 3 mana, 1 a black and a red for a 2/2 legendary human warrior with first strike. Whenever she attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on her, and she has raid. At the beginning of your end step, if you attacked this turn, return target creature card with mana value less than or equal to Alesia's power from your graveyard to the battlefield. I don't think this is good. I might be like off on that, but by the time it attacks like a Glissa. You know, if you think about it that way, it's kind of a 3 mana 3/3 first strike, and it, you know, it doesn't have the death touch that Glissa has, but just a 3 mana 3/3 first strike is like a decent line of text, and it's, if it survives that combat step and the subsequent turn, then suddenly it's a 4/4 and then a 5/5 first strike, and like, those are good stats for a 3 mana investment. That's not bad. But obviously the ability to, again, if it survives those combat steps, you know, get this raid trigger off is sick. Because like there's all kinds of fun stuff you can bring back from your graveyard with this, whether it's like something simple like Deep Cavern Bat or another small like decent creature we all play in standard right now, right? Or if it's like Arabella, it's your Arabella deck, right? Because this has 2 power for a second, so I guess that works. But still, you know, there's a bunch of fun stuff that you can do with this in standard, but I just don't think it is quite there. I think that, like, you know, if it would put weights on its ankles for a couple of weeks, maybe it could dunk, but right now it's just barely grazing the rim, and I'm not sure that it's there. But up next, what would a Magic set be nowadays without a Kellen? I guess it'd be Duskmorn. Was he around for that one? I'm not sure. But yeah, anyway, Kellen, Planar Trailblazer, is in this set. So Kellen for 5 years, everybody. This is 1 red mana for a 2/1 legendary human fairy scout. You can pay 1 in a red, and if he's a scout, he becomes a human fairy detective and gains whenever Kellen deals combat damage to a player. Exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. He also has 3 mana, 2 in a red. If Kellen is a detective, he becomes a 3/2 human fairy rogue and gains double strike. All right, so 6 mana for a 3/2 double strike. Basically what that breaks down into, but they use the hero template on this, or the figure of destiny template, right, where you kind of level them up with mana. The evolving adaptive, I think, or evolved sleeper, is that what he's called in standard right now? Kind of fits this same criteria. People love these guys, man. They really do. But in this case, it's not that I'm not impressed, because at the very, very floor of the card, it's a 1-mana 2/1. And like, that's going to be fine. Most of the time, it's going to be okay. You know what I mean? But that said, on turn 2, you can just level him up, and he might not get any larger or anything, but like, eventually he's going to start drawing you cards, which I think is sick. But, you know, again, pump some more mana into him and he hits for 6. You know, none of these modes, though, are that impressive. It's just the fact that he starts at a decent baseline that makes me kind of like this card a little bit. But here comes an Eldrazi, everybody. Look out. Here's Sire of 7 Deaths. What a metal name, man. I like when Eldrazi have metal names. They tend to. This is 7 mana for a 7/7 Eldrazi with 7 keyword abilities. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes. Anyway, he's got First Strike and Vigilance, Menace, Trample, Reach, Lifelink, and Ward. Pay 7 life. So this reminds me of like a Phyrexian Fleshgorger in Standard, but in some ways I like Phyrexian Fleshgorger more. Like, even as a Reanimator target, you know, because at least I can play him on turn 3 if I don't have my Reanimator spell up yet or whatever it is, you know. But this guy, you can't do that. But I guess, you know, Phyrexian Fleshgorger doesn't have First Strike, Vigilance, Menace, Trample, Reach, you know, his life. Well, he does have Menace. He does have Menace and Lifelink, but he doesn't have like any of the other abilities, and he's kind of got Ward pay 7 life. Phyrexian Fleshgorger kind of has that ability, like a little bit. So I'm not sure. I just want to compare the 2 cards, and most of the time I think I'd rather play Gorger, which is why I'm not as impressed with this card as I see a lot of the Magic community. But I probably should give it some credit. You know, like in the Oops All Colorless deck I try to build every season, we finally have an actual like ridiculous 7-drop to build to. You know, we had like good 6-drops like Chimel the Inner Sun. We had a good 9-drop and Portal to Phyrexia. Good luck getting to it. This is 7 mana, and I know it sounds like a lot, but you know, you can actually get there some of the time. It's a lot easier than 9 to get to. So I like him a good bit. I'm not trying to like poop on him too much. I'm just not as impressed as I see a good bit of the community being. You know, I don't know if it's a Timmy thing or a Reanimator player thing. And I'm definitely a Reanimator player, but if I'm reanimating a 7-drop in Standard, it's still a Traxa or a Tally or a Valgaboth. I know that's a 9-drop, but you know, we're reanimating here. It could be a 15-drop and it doesn't matter. You're reanimating it. So I'm not sure like where this sees play, but it might be one of those things that because of the combination of keyword abilities on the card, it's actually like impossible to play against this thing once it's on the table. I imagine if it ever does show up on the other side against me, hits the stack and resolves, I'm probably going to like poop myself, you know, like what do I do about that? I'm just dead. So again, I want to give the card like some credit here. It is pretty good, but I just think that there are like options in Standard I would take over it. But let's move on and look at Extravagant Replication. Extravagant Replication. This is 6 mana, 4 and 2 blue for an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a token that's a copy of another target non-land permanent you control. That's strong. That's a strong Magic card, dude. Like, okay, so this has the 6 mana disease again, and it's a do-nothing. I get that. Look, Spikes, I know, you're in the comment section all the time. I think like you some of the time. You're in me, I promise. The first thing I saw when I looked at this card was a 6 mana do-nothing. I totally get it, but oh my god, like... You have to understand, like, once this starts triggering, you know, you win the game. I'm pretty sure, dude, like, any other non-land permanent that you control, you get a copy of every single turn, you know, whether it's your Urbrass Forge or your Caretaker's Talent, or let's play a little bit larger than that, you know, let's say I make a Virtue of Persistence every turn. Let's say I make a Portal to Phyrexia every single turn. Let's say I make a... what is it? The Multiverse card that lets you play extra stuff off the top of your library every turn. You know, like you can get pretty wild with what you're actually copying with this. But I just think like some sort of control deck that uses this to copy again, like the little stuff, you know, Urbrass Forge and Caretaker Talent, so you get to draw more cards and make more guys. Like it doesn't necessarily seem like win more to me. It seems like win when resolved to me. So I just think this is actually a little bit stronger than it might appear to some long-time entrenched competitive Magic players, because I know you'll never pay 6 mana to not do anything when you resolve the card. I get that, but I'll take that lump for you. I'll play this card in the arena, and I'm pretty sure it's going to work out, man. This is very strong, and even if it's not Standard playable, I think it's Commander staple. Just kind of like, is it written on here? It should be written on here. I feel like it should be Sharpied onto the card, Commander staple, but... I don't know if you can't see it, I can. But final card of the day, barring any reloads here, and you guys are gonna jump all over me. I cannot wait to see the like-dislike ratio to this video, because you guys have been kind of with me most of the spoiler season, but I think you guys are going to think that I am completely off my nut for this one. It is Layline Ax, my final and therefore favorite / strongest evaluated card of the day is somehow Layline Ax. This is 4 mana for an equipment that equips for 3. If this card is in your opening hand, you may begin the game with it on the battlefield. Okay, but also, equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has double strike and trample. I feel like I've heard that somewhere before. Yeah, it's just Embercleave. That's where I've heard it before. This is an Embercleave. It's nuts, dude. Like, you actually have to like spend the mana to equip it and all that. Like, Embercleave would routinely cost 3 to 2 mana, something like that. It would come down instant speed. Your opponent, in a way, this is like the slowest version of Embercleave imaginable in terms of design, because like your opponent, let's be honest, I was going to say your opponent doesn't see Embercleave coming, but you do. If you remember the days of Embercleave, then like you saw it coming every single time, right? But doesn't mean you can do anything to stop it, which I actually think is a good argument for this card. You know, you'll see it coming before they can ever equip it. They won't equip it to a creature until turn 3 or 4 or whatever, but like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Especially if they do have, you know, protection spell up, Shard Mage's Rescue, Snakeskin Veil. Because the idea is that when they go to equip this to a guy, you just like blow the guy away, you know, get lost, go for the throat, whatever. But again, protection spell, and they just win. I feel like this card just wins the game, like pretty easily, dude. Double strike and trample is just the dumbest 2 abilities to put together. We've seen that time and time again, right? Manifold Malice has recently taught us that lesson once again. So in case you forgot it, it's in standard currently. It's very good. But also +1/+1 double strike and trample is actually +2/+2 because of the double strike. So yeah, despite the relatively high equip cost and even the high cost to get it into play, you know, like if you don't get this in your opening hand, it costs 4 mana, a total of 7 to attach to a creature. Seems like a lot, but I actually think there are mid-range decks that like, okay, I'll just play this to the table and equip it this turn because I have that much mana, you know, Overlord of the Hauntwoods, whatever. Imagine Overlord of the Hauntwoods, 7 power double striking trampler. How do you beat that card? You know what I mean? So again, mid-range decks can just play this to the table, and even if they have to wait a turn to equip it, I think they're more than happy to do that because you equip it to your Overlord of the Mistmoors or whatever, and just like your Beza, like even your Beza, you know, 5 power double strike trample is pretty hard to do anything about a lot of the time. So even if they blow away the creature, they blow away the Sheoldred you attach this to like a jerk, then like it's going to stick around until you get a Glissa, and then, oh my god, it's attached to Glissa. Holy crap. So, like, you know, like, seems pretty dumb to me. I think this card is actually extremely good, and better than it's going to appear to, I think, a lot of the community. Now, that is all the main set cards from today, but again, remember to join me for that starter kit collection review later on today on the channel. It shouldn't take me too much longer to get that one out than this one, so they should go up around the same time. If you're watching this, especially if you got to this part of the video, you know, that video is almost certainly up. So go check that one out. That video is important. If you want to know what's going to be in standard for the next few years, so much stuff got previewed as part of the starter kit collection, and it's all standard legal, and half of it is ridiculous. So again, check that video out. And I want to give you a quick reminder that tomorrow, Wednesday, October the whatever, 30th, I will be doing previews live on Twitch. Usually I stream on Thursday nights, but Thursday night is Halloween. We want to give out candy and be a good Halloween family and all that stuff. We got decorations set out, whatever. So we want to do Halloween stuff on Halloween, meaning that we're moving the stream to Wednesday tomorrow night as you watch this. If you're watching it the night I put it out. We're moving it to Wednesday. We'll be doing the previews for tomorrow live on Twitch. So check out the link in the description to go follow on Twitch and make sure you get that when it happens. But apart from that, do all the YouTube stuff on your way out. Make sure you let me know how you felt about all these cards down there in the comments section. If I missed anything, an interaction, if I don't know how cards work, whatever, I'm sure you'll let me know in the comments section. It's always fun to read. But apart from that, you can hit the button shaped like a thumb. I hear it's called the like button, but that sounds wrong. But you can also sub to the sandwich or the channel. I hear people call it a channel, but That sounds wrong. You can also check out the Patreon, which is the best way to support the content. It's only $1 a month. There's other options. You want to do it, that's awesome. But mostly, I'm looking for $1 a month, and that'll help support the channel in this tremendous way. You have no idea what $1 a month can do for a YouTube channel. So help me out if you feel like it. But if not, I'm just glad that you made it to this part of the video. Watch time's a thing too, right? Love you very much, and I'll see you tomorrow. I'm Deb from The Place. Thanks for watching, Wizards. Spread love and be kind.